One of the common questions I get asked is, what is heart rate variability and how do you measure it and why does it even matter? I'm going to talk a little bit more about how I measure it and a few things that you might want to know about the importance of this metric and how you can potentially improve it. The device I use is the Oura Ring. There are several other options out there, and I've showed more about the Oura Ring in a previous video, but let's just jump into some of the data behind heart rate variability, and I'll show you some examples of how I use this, and you can use something very similar in your own tracking of your health metrics. This is inside the Oura app on my iPhone. You can see last night sleep score was 91. Got about 8 hours and 34 minutes of sleep, which is more than average for me. Heart rate average was 40 beats per minute, and slept in this morning 7:23, which is pretty late, but had some fragmented sleep last night. But nonetheless, readiness score is optimal. And then let's go ahead and jump in here and I'll show you what the heart rate variability data looks like in the Oura app. So we are in the dashboard of the sleep tab here, and it shows the overall sleep pattern with the different phases and degrees of sleep. The very bottom dark blue is deep sleep. Not super great last night, but better than the previous nights, as you can see. Scrolling down here, this is what I want to talk about mostly, is tracking of the heart rate throughout the night and heart rate variability for the purpose of this video. You can see the sawtooth pattern that is going on there. That is what it should look like if it's just completely flat or with very little variability. There are some things that can happen dietarily or lifestyle-wise that can cause low heart rate variability. And I'm going to jump into the science behind this, and we'll talk more about why this is important, what affects it, and how to improve it in just a second. Some of the data in here that I find particularly fascinating is you can look daily, weekly, or monthly. This is the monthly tab here, and you can see in the holiday time frame there, sort of fell off the rails. Was particularly doing a lot of traveling in January and February. Time zone change, eating late, sometimes some beverage on the plane, and some other factors that can definitely affect that. And you can see it kind of spikes up here. In the summer, more hiking, camping, more unplugging, and then again, the same trend again as we get into the holiday seasons, which dips down below 30, and then as it gets way down here, had some COVID-related symptoms a couple months ago, and heart rate variability was very poor that month, essentially just barely over 20. So it's more of a overall picture as opposed to just one day relying on that number specifically, but looking at trends definitely can show some activities, behaviors, lifestyle changes and modifications that have the potential to impact and improve this. 27 milliseconds, so still above the threshold that I'm going to talk about here in a minute, but much below the nearly 40 at present. Had highs up into the 80s, which is not typical. That's more of an outlier than an actual trend or metric typically. In essence, heart rate variability is the balance between two different competing systems, the sympathetic and parasympathetic system, or you can think of it as fight and flight or rest and digest. What the data have shown that low heart rate variability is associated with increased risk of what's called all-cause mortality, particularly heart disease and possibly cancer. Some of the associations are a little bit weaker than others, but the gist of it, the take-home point that I wanted to share in this video is that heart rate variability of over 22.3 has been shown to have some beneficial effects in terms of decreased risk, particularly of heart disease. It's not in and of itself a metric that can be a foolproof. Obviously, there's a lot of other things that go into the equation, such as genetics, lifestyle, cholesterol, exercise, smoking, all that. The bottom line is that there are a few things that could potentially increase the variability. Exercise such as endurance exercise, yoga, meditation. There's evidence that biofeedback can also help in that regard. There is an app that I've used in the past on my phone that correlates with breathing, respiratory pauses, almost like a box type breathing, that has shown some data in terms of improving heart rate variability. And also sleep. Sleep obviously is a cornerstone of health. This is well known, well documented. Other things that are clearly detrimental: alcohol consumption at night, poor diet, excessive caffeine, pre-existing high blood pressure, triglycerides or lipid problems, cholesterol problems. There's some evidence that poor air quality can also affect heart rate variability. So all of those things are important to keep in mind. So a few take-home points here. The data are showing that the lower heart rate variability can be a marker for increased risk of mortality, particularly from heart disease and cancer. Higher heart rate variability tends to show more beneficial overall effects. The tip is to not compare your heart rate variability to other people's variability. Your physiology is unique. Heart rate variability tends to decrease as we age. There are some graphs that you can find online about that, but I think overall it is the trend, and also implementing changes in lifestyle, exercise, diet, all that can show improved tracking and metric as you track your heart rate over weeks and months of time. So I hope you found that helpful. If you have questions, let me know. Take care. Be well.